also looking for a whitewash series win. And Pat Murphy has the latest.
Well, Ian Bell is starting to go through the gears after a hesitant start. Good New Zealand bowling under heavy skies, the ball moving around. McClellan got Cook for naught and Trott for 37. Bell has now gone on to 61, route 23, 122 for 2 after 30 of the 50 overs.
And it continues on 5 Live Sports Extra. Let's cross to Paris for the latest on the French Open. The reigning champion Rafa Nadal is up against Stan Wawrinka in the quarterfinals. And our correspondent Jonathan Overend is there.
And Novak Djokovic, the top seed, also playing these two quarterfinals simultaneously in action on the two main show courts. And if Djokovic and Nadal both win, we'll get the match we all wanted to see when the draw was made in the semi-finals on Friday. They both started strongly. Nadal 4-1 up with a double break first set against Stan Wawrinka, whose backhand isn't firing today. And Novak Djokovic has already won the first set, 6-3, against the 35-year-old Tommy Haas.
Earlier, Maria Sharapova sealed her place in the semis by coming from a set down to beat Jelena Jankovic. The reigning champion lost the opening set to Love, but came back to win Love 6, 6-4, 6-3. She'll play the third seed Victoria Azarenka, who beat Maria Karolenko in straight sets. And the British and Irish Lions beat Western Force 69-17.
Martin is apparently sat in the wrong seat when he started.
Is that right?
Yeah, they made a little joke. You know, his first tactical change in mid-seat.
Very good, very good.
And he says, it's a really special day. I have this feeling of excitement and honour. We'll get a bit more from him later. It's Chris Warburton and Peter Allen with you today. Our main story, the Mayor of London has condemned a suspected arson attack in North London, which has destroyed a Somali community centre. The fire broke out in the early hours of the morning, and the Met Police has confirmed that the initials EDL had been freshly daubed on the building. The English Defence League denies involvement.
The two-storey building is in Muswell Hill. It houses an Islamic prayer centre, and you might have seen the pictures today. They're showing its burnt-out remains, a complete mess really. Pictures show the roof off, and there's not a part of it which isn't affected by fire. Specialist officers from the Met Police's Counter-Terrorism Command are investigating the incident now. It's come 2 weeks after the murder in Woolwich of drummer Lee Rigby, of course. The London Mayor Boris Johnson has condemned the attack as cowardly, pathetic and utterly pointless. Within the last half hour, the Barnet Borough Police Commander Adrian Usher has been giving more details to reporters.
We have found some graffiti which the three letters EDL have been found, and we are working hard to determine whether that is linked with the fire that took place this morning.
The residents I've spoken to said that they weren't aware of any graffiti prior to last night, so...
As you can imagine, exactly when and where that graffiti was placed is focal point of the inquiry, and we'll pursue all possible leads until we know where it came from. If it is connected to the fire, if it is, we will pursue those offenders until they are brought to justice.
Is it the counter-terrorism units who are now leading this investigation?
We have officers from specialist operations, and the reason for that is they have a real expertise in the investigative techniques that we're using and are needed on this scene. But I wouldn't draw any direct conclusions from that. It is their expertise that we're using. If in the fullness of time it becomes their investigation because of what their usual remit is, they will continue with it.
Residents here clearly believe this was a specifically targeted attack. What have you been saying to them today?
We've been doing a huge amount of reassurance. One of the really great things that's come out of this are the messages of support that have come from across the faith communities. Both the Christian and Jewish communities have responded, supporting the local Islamic Somali community. We do not know at this stage who is responsible or what their motivation is, but the community has responded brilliantly. Community leaders have been calm, they have shown amazing resolution. I've been highly impressed by how patient they are being until we establish the facts, and that we're eventually able to allow the media and the wider community know exactly what happened here.
Well, that's the Barnet Borough Police Commander Adrian Usher. I think we can speak first to Kurt Barley, who is a reporter on the scene. What was this building actually used for?
This building was the Somali Brotherhood Community Centre. It's not a mosque, it's not a place of worship. Predominantly used by the Brotherhood community. Brotherhood is a small town in southeastern Somalia. That's where this group predominantly come from, the minority of Somalia itself. However, this community centre is essentially used every day, I have to say, by local people for Quranic classes, for children after school groups and the like. It's not just used by the Muslim community though, it's used by other communities too. Whilst I was here early this morning, the local rabbi from a mosque literally a mile up the road appeared and embraced the chair of the community centre and said, I'm so sorry this has happened. We must work together. So it gives you a sense that actually this is a well-known community centre, not just for that community. In fact, it's curious, we're not in a London area, we're in a suburban area. I'm looking at the centre, which is extremely badly damaged. The roof has caved in, the walls have come down, but I'm looking at it across a field of allotments. So it's, you can imagine, taking a lot of people by surprise. It's next to a primary school, but as you heard from the police officer, of the borough commander, that actually they did find on the walls of the letters EDL. And I've talked to local people, particularly from that community centre, who said before this morning there were no such graffiti on the wall. There was other fresh graffiti too. And I think that is why the police are stressing that they're considering, or not ruling out at least, that this may be a racially motivated attack.
Okay, Kurt, thank you for that. That's our reporter, Kurt Barling. Mohammed Ali is from the Somali community in Barnet. I think actually used the building. Are you and your friends thinking this was an EDL attack, that it was racially motivated?
Well, at the end of the day, the police are doing as they can, and the fire brigade side is still out there doing their jobs well, and you know they've been very supportive throughout the day. And you know what, we don't know what's going on yet because we cannot reveal, because we've got only phase 1 at the moment. We're waiting for phase 2.
I understand that, but I thought I read in the Evening Standard that you said you believed it may have been a reprisal for the Woolwich attack. Is that right or not?
Well, I haven't said that. I don't know. There may be rumours going around, but you know what? No one has said that. Okay, Leon, thank you for making that plain. Clearly our sympathies with you, because it's quite a distressing moment for you. Well, as a community, we are very shocked, but I think this will make us more stronger as a community as a whole. And you know what, we are a peaceful, loving community within Barnet, and we have lived in Barnet for the past 20 years, and we haven't seen such a thing. But it will make us as a strong community. We are a multi-faith organisation, and we will work throughout. And most of the religious leaders, the ministers, and the rabbis are very supportive in terms of what happened today. Yeah. Have you noticed since Woolwich, the events in Woolwich, has there been any antagonism expressed towards you or your colleagues? Well, not at all, and this is the first, not at all, and I don't know which is, if it's connected to that at the moment. Right, that's Mohammed Ali of Somali charity Gritsom, as I say, used to use the building, and it's now destroyed. 13 minutes past 4.
And of course, been told how a van driver went on an 8-mile journey of mayhem in a series of hit-and-run incidents in Cardiff, killing one of his 18 victims. You might remember this. Matthew Tredon had pleaded guilty to manslaughter and 7 attempted murders, as well as 11 other offences. The last few minutes, Kerry Hughes from the Crown Prosecution Service said the timing of the incident was particularly disturbing.
The horrendous and distressing incidents of the 19th of October last year led to the tragic death of Karina Menzies, and also life-threatening and life-changing injuries for a significant number of others. The events of that afternoon were also extremely traumatic for the large number of persons who witnessed events unfolding on the streets of Cardiff. It was a particularly busy time because parents were collecting children from school on a Friday afternoon.
Well, our reporter Mark Hutchings is at Cardiff Crown Court. And Mark, as I said, many people remember when this happened. They might remember when the news was coming into Drive. It was hard to piece together what was happening and why, wasn't it? I mean, what do we now know about what happened that night?
Well, you're right, there were extremely chaotic scenes and reports that afternoon, but we now for the first time know the exact detail of what Matthew Tredon did. He has admitted 19 offences in all, including manslaughter on the grounds of diminished responsibility and 7 counts of attempted murder. And let me just detail those 5 separate incidents. First, at 3:30, he drove at a mother and her 2 young children in the Ely area in the west of Cardiff. The mother described seeing her son's legs sticking out between the wheels. Then he ploughed into a couple walking with their child in a pushchair. The pushchair was overturned. His next actions proved fatal. 32-year-old Karina Menzies was walking with two of her daughters across the forecourt of Ely Fire Station. An eyewitness has described how Trudon knocked them over like skittles. Trudon then lined up his van again to aim at Karina Menzies as she pushed one of her daughters out of the way. He drove over her and then reversed over her body for a third time. Then, at a nearby crossing, he knocked over a mother and her two young sons. They were thrown into the air. And finally, Trudon drove 5 miles to Leckwith Retail Park. On CCTV footage, he is seen calmly paying for fuel before attacking other motorists with a crook clock. When he got back into the van, a 49-year-old woman stood in front of it to remonstrate. There were then gasps in court today as mobile phone footage was shown detailing him knocking the woman over, dragging her under his van for several meters. Her 29-year-old daughter ran up to remonstrate as well, and exactly the same thing happened to her. And a short while later, Trudon was stopped by police, who he also assaulted.
So we know the answer to what. What's the answer to why, Mark?
Well, long and complicated, but in a nutshell, we were told in court today that the actions of Matthew Trudon were entirely the consequence of his illness, that of paranoid schizophrenia. He appeared in court via video link from Ashworth Psychiatric Unit. The court heard that since July 2003 he'd been suffering from paranoid schizophrenia. He was treated for that illness. He had never really displayed, the judge was told, any signs of being a danger to himself, let alone other people. In 2011, almost exactly a year before these incidents, he was signed off by the mental health services and was advised by a doctor to gradually reduce his medication, which is what he did. And a year later, everyone around him realised he was getting ill again. 15 work colleagues at the tax office where he worked said that they were concerned about his increasingly bizarre behaviour. 2 days before these actions, his line manager spoke to him about it. The court heard that he thought he'd recognised people who'd caused him stress years earlier. In fact, they were all strangers, and he was clearly delusional. And they heard also in a statement issued on behalf of his ex-partner, who just split up with him, said she'd seen him shortly before he went on the rampage. She said he looked right through me. It was his body, but he wasn't in it. The person who did this wasn't the person that I knew for the past 17 months. But the judge has decided to wait and consider overnight as to whether Matthew Trudon should be detained under the mental health unit, and he will be back here for a hearing tomorrow afternoon.
Okay, that's our reporter Mark Hutchings. Let's get some reaction quickly to the death of Karina Menzies and those terrible events, as described so well by Mark. Her brother and sister Sam and Craig Menzies told 5 Live how Karina's children are coping after their mum died, saving their lives.
They have spoke about it, told me exactly what they saw and what happened from their point of view. And they also told me that my sister did push them out of the way to save their lives. It just makes me feel really proud. That was the last thought in her mind. That's a good mum for you.
She was an amazing mum.
She idolised their children. She'd do anything for them, and they idolised her as well. They had such a strong bond. So I think it's important to keep her memory alive, especially for Tiana, because she's only 4. She says that Mummy's just like an angel in the sky, and she always says good night to her every night. And the other 2 girls, they still talk to her, you know, when they go to bed or when they're feeling a bit upset. But I tell them to write their feelings down, and because their mum's always listening to them anyway. They are sad sometimes, which is to be expected, but they take each day as it comes, and you know, they live life as it comes, which is how children should be. There is an underlying tone of sadness in their lives because it's such a massive loss.
People obviously have the same feeling, decorate a grave, you know, flowers and draw pictures for them, hang them up on a tree, but it's wounding, it's like gut-wrenching. It's like you don't know where to start, you feel lost, you feel empty, hurt, just so many mixed emotions. You don't know where to begin. It's unbelievable. It's just so hard to deal with. But as a family, you know, and mainly for the girls, that's why we keep strong. Just take each day as it comes.
I want them to grow into strong, independent women who live life, get good jobs, be successful. I just want them to be happy and live life to the full, because they know of all people how precious life is.
So Sam and Craig Menzies, the brother and sister of Karina Menzies.
And just one text, well, there were several on the same theme, saying, don't be naive, Peter. Graffiti doesn't, in this case, EDL does not indicate the perpetrator, but certainly doesn't prove it, that's for sure. It's 20 minutes past 4.
BBC Radio 5 Live is also available through your digital TV. Sky, Freeview, FreeSat and Virgin Media are just some of the ways you can listen.
The 5 Live News, English Defence League graffiti has been found on the walls of a burnt-out Islamic centre in North London. Number 10 says there's persuasive evidence that chemical weapons have been used by Syria's presidential regime. The head of the NHS Confederation has told Drive that the NHS in England could be at risk unless some hospitals are either scaled down or closed. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
You okay?
Yeah, you?
Jolly good, I'm alright. How are you?
Not too bad at all, actually. The motorways are pretty good at the moment in terms of the number of incidents reported to us. We've got some slow traffic heading towards the roadworks on the M8. That's between Whitburn at Junction 4 and Junction 5 at Hart Hill Services. A little bit slow on that side. The M62 on the west